Welcome back to Popcorn and Opinions. Thanks for joining us again, guys. Today we're going to be talking about Sinners. Alrighty, Vat, I did get something special for today since we finally picked a name. This is Opinions. This is Opinions.
And this is popcorn.
No way!
Swear to God, I made popcorn just for this, dude.
Whoa! That is so funny. I saw this and I was like, oh, it's coming home with me. I don't know where. I'm going to find a good spot for it, but
Yes, yeah.
we're gonna have
I
Opinions
need to get like a
chilling.
little. I need like a little stand to put the popcorn bowl right here.
Yeah. We're getting it together, guys.
Yeah, I have the prop. I just don't know how to put it in the video yet.
All right.
Oh,
Well, let's jump into it then.
that's right. This week's movie was Sinners, starring Michael B. Jordan. Had a great cast. It is about the preacher boy's son, Sammy, who, he loves music. He has this guitar that's very precious to him. And at the very beginning, the father warns him about, he's a preacher, so music is the devil's work or something. And so, he has this idea in his head of like, he wants a bigger life. He works in the fields picking cotton. And this is during the time of Jim Crow. So, black people weren't really free yet. So his cousins come back from Chicago and they have an idea to start a juke joint. And it's going to be, as they put it, for us, by us, FUBU. And yeah,
Ooh, I've never heard that. I like that.
yeah, that's what FUBU stands for. You remember FUBU,
I
the
do
brand?
remember FUBU. I had
Yeah,
no idea that's what it meant.
for us, by us. Yeah. So they're gonna start a juke joint. The twins, which both played by Michael B. Jordan, which I thought was pretty incredible. They go and they buy this old mill from this white guy who's obviously like, and so they buy the old mill and they have a plan to, their opening night. They go into, one of the brothers goes into town. Their nicknames are Smoke and Stack. So Smokestack, which I thought was kind of cool. So they go and, one of the brothers goes into town, gets all the supplies. They invite all the people and, they get to the old mill. It's nighttime and the
They're
party
getting
ensues.
down. They're getting
Yes,
down in that jukebox joint. All right. They got a little,
exactly.
what do they call it? Bouncer in the front.
Yep, they got the bouncer, and it shows like the beginning of the movie shows them gathering the supplies for the event, right? So they
Right.
go down and one of them goes into town to get like a sign, and then the other one goes out and he's recruiting this guy to be the bouncer, another guy to be the musician.
Mhm.
And then one of the brothers has like an old girlfriend or wife, that he goes to her and he's like, "Hey, I need you to do a big fish fry for the evening." So it's gonna be, it's gonna be a rager, right? At some point, they cut from the main story to this white couple in their house, and this guy like jumps into the scene, kind of
Like
literally,
almost falls
and
out of the sky. Okay. And he's just like
yeah,
steaming smoke. He looks like it looks
and
like
he
he
looks
ran
all
out of a burning
blistery.
car running towards this
Yeah,
house.
yeah. And he runs towards this house and he knocks on the door and he's like, "Oh, the Indians are after me and, like please let me in, help me. I'm desperate." And so, they let him in and they shut the door, and then the Indians, the Native Americans show up and they're like, "Hey, ma'am, like have you seen this guy? Just so you know, he's not what he looks like." And she's like, "Nope, like get out of here, whatever." And he's like, "All right, just be careful." Then he
And
goes on his merry
mind you,
way.
it's also getting dark at this point, and he even
Yeah.
says like, "Hey, we gotta get out of here before it gets too late."
Exactly. Like they know what's up. And so it cuts to that, like the woman going back into the house and like looking for her husband, and something happens there. Then they cut back over to the party, and the party's, kicking off. They're having a great time, all
They're
that
having
good
a
stuff. And there's this
It's so
there's this
good.
beautiful moment because at the very beginning of the movie they preface it with this cool storytelling thing, if you will. And they talk about like how music can like, blend times, like music can transcend time and space, and like, if you do it right, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And there's certain musicians out there that can do that. And like, there's no past, there's no present, there's no future. It's all just one in that moment, right? And so they have this beautiful scene where he's playing this, the preacher boy goes up and this is his moment to, like he gets to play his music, and he starts playing and it's, so good that it starts to like shift the space-time continuum, you know what I mean? And you see like all the generations of like what the blues inspired, and right after that is when the conflict ensues. The guy that had entered the home of the couple, he shows up with the couple with him, and they're trying to get into the party too. And the bouncer's like, "No, you got to get out of here." And I don't want to get too much further than that, but that is the premise of the movie is these people show up to a party that they should not be at. There becomes a dangerous situation, and they basically have to survive the night.
That was a great synopsis of it, actually.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I did
Yeah.
watch it.
Some cool facts actually about the movie is the director, Ryan, I don't want to butcher his name, Ku
Kudrow?
Kugler? Ryan Kugler. Forgive me for that. He actually, this is not the first time he's worked with Michael B. Jordan. He's actually been working with Michael B. Jordan since 2013 before his come up. They've actually done 5 movies together, and I'm actually gonna name them for you. The first one
Okay.
is gonna be the Fruitvale Station, and that came out in 2013. This was before Michael B. Jordan, like, really blew up, you know what I mean? And he went to him, Ryan Coogler, went to Michael B. Jordan
Kugler.
like, "Hey, I think you got something. Like, I think you're gonna be an amazing actor. You're really gonna go places. Like, let's do this. Let's make this film." They end up making that film. They end up making Creed after that. They
Uh,
make Black Panther after that. They make
oh,
Black Panda Wakanda Forever after that together, and then they do Sinners where they win this Oscar.
fantastic.
Yeah, and they actually won 4 Oscars, okay? So this
4.
team,
Wow.
yeah, this team, them coming together, it has been kind of this, in the making kind of win for them, and I really love that for them, this moment for them that they actually, crossed that finish line together because of course, of having that long history, and they won for Best Actor. Michael B. Jordan won that. Obviously, he won. He had to play 2 roles, you know? The scenes were definitely, like, very well acted, you could feel it. They got a Best Original Screenplay as well. They got Best Cinematography and Best Original Score, which I'm not quite sure what that means. But they did get some other, historical nominate they also got made history in the nominations that they had. They had 16 nominations at the Oscars. So they also won a Critics' Choice Award, the 31st, and the 83rd Golden Globe. So
Wow.
yeah, this movie, I feel like for them was more than just what they put out. It was something that was built in the making, that relationship, all the hard work. And I'm actually really excited that it's getting the recognition that, after all that history. Something that I think is just so funny and random though is that Ryan Coogler, the director.
Kugler. It's pronounced Kugler. I looked it up.
Coogler? Oh, thank you.
And actually, by the way, best original score is given to the best substantial body of original music written specifically for a film. And
Wow.
it requires at least 35% original content, 80% for sequels. But given the fact that this is the first movie, I doubt they'll do a sequel. That means that 35% of the music that you heard was original content.
That's wow. That's crazy. They definitely made some huge feats. Like they overcame a lot and look where it got them. That's crazy. That's amazing.
Hmm.
Well, randomly though, the director, he actually has a fear of doppelgangers, which is hilarious
That's
considering the
so
main.
random.
Right. The main focus is these twins, right? These twins that, and it's just hilarious that, yeah, I was looking him up, doing some, watching some of his interviews, and it's just hilarious to know that he's like, yeah, I got like this major fear of doppelgangers. Let me go make them these twins the main in my first Oscar winning movie.
That's such a random fear. How often do you never run into a doppelganger? Like, what?
Yeah, and actually in the interview he says, he's like, "I have this fear I'm gonna, like, run into my doppelganger," which is, like, so funny. I feel like, most people on the other end of that, like, I would be gassed if I saw somebody who looked just like me, like, you
So
know?
it's a deep-seated psychological and cultural phenomenon based on the terror of encountering an identical, often malevolent double of oneself or a loved one. So like an evil twin type of situation.
Okay.
It's super random, but
I mean, hey, perfect segue to talk about the movie because they did not have the twins having this evil twin thing. They were very much a team in the movie.
Well
Wanna get into it?
well, like, I mean, and no to your statement, and we can definitely get into that. What were do you know what some of the reviews were other than the awards? Obviously,
Yeah. Yeah,
awards are fantastic.
good point. The general public overall, this had great reviews. This had phenomenal reviews. And also culturally, there was just a lot of, I guess, recognition. Things like, voodoo, I guess, and from the reviews that I've heard, hoodoo, and just
Voodoo, yeah.
talking about how what this movie for community really was, it was them sticking together. There was just a lot of people who felt, I guess, like it was great recognition for showing what that fear really looks like and showing like just the soul of the music and the togetherness, and that was something that was really appreciated that I saw a lot by viewers, and I was doing, kind of a deep dive. But overall, everybody really thought, I mean, and I agree that the vocals were incredible. I thought the acting was incredible, and I will say overall that I thought it was great, and the reviews also agreed with that.
Right. Do we know what Rotten Tomatoes ranked it at?
Yes, actually, Rotten Tomatoes, it had almost a perfect score on Rotten Tomatoes with
Shut
99%.
up.
Yep.
99% for a supernatural thriller. I would say that that's very high for the demographic, like not the demographic, for the category that I would put this film in.
Mhm.
All right. Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised too because I didn't, Rotten Tomatoes, people feel like they do or don't maybe like read into that. I think it's normally pretty spot on. Yeah, Tomatoes, I think that they normally have great feedback on there. So getting a 99, actually, when I was looking it up, it was saying that that's actually like described it as near perfect scoring.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, you can't give perfect score loosely, you know what I mean, or ever,
Mhm.
because it kind of dilutes the quality of your scoring,
Mhm.
or your rating. Because there's always going to be somebody that disagrees with you and might have a valid point, like, oh, this movie didn't have blah blah blah, and that's why I didn't like it. And so there's you got to leave a little wiggle room, you know what I mean? So a near perfect score, I mean that's great, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So yeah, let's go through the movie. We will give spoiler alerts, of course, to let you know if something is coming. If you have not seen the movie yet, just be mindful of how far you listen into this video if you don't want us to ruin it for you. If you have seen the video, I mean if you have seen the movie, you know, if you agree with our synopsis, if you agree with the plot points that, if we missed anything that you're like, "Oh, you missed this huge plot point that, was essential or whatever." Let me know if I missed anything. I'm definitely open to hearing it. And we'll obviously give our own personal views towards the end and, let us know if we're spot on or way off base. So we'll start with the opening scene.
Wait, before I gotta get myself.
Yeah, I always have a beverage. I brought a whole thing of sodas up here because I don't know how long this is gonna take us.
Cheers to
Cheers.
that.
Here's to
All right,
sinners.
let's get into the opinions.
Yeah. Well, we'll just go through the movie, and we'll break down what we thought was kind of essential and certain points and takeaways that we got from some of these scenes. So, of course, we got to talk about the opening. For some reason, both of us thought that the intro or the opening scene was going to be this like crazy, this
Moment.
crazy yeah, so we recorded ourselves watching the opening and, not that it wasn't a great opening, it was, but it wasn't like I was, like, falling out of my chair, you know what I mean? So we didn't bother to show those videos we took because it would've just been us watching TV.
Right.
Yeah, there wasn't much to it, so we won't bore anybody with that. But yeah, so the opening scene, I definitely love when a movie opens with that, like, storytelling moment, know what I mean? Like, I love when a movie does that, and I will point out that the movie starts off in if I'm not mistaken, it starts off in widescreen, and I don't know
Yeah.
if you noticed in the movie that certain scenes were wide, and then all of a sudden it was full, full screen. I don't know what the term is, but
No, no, that those are the right terms, yeah.
so, yeah, so I don't know, like, I don't know if you caught that during the movie that, like, certain scenes went to full and then went and it would go back to widescreen again. Did you
Oh,
notice that?
wow. That's a cool detail.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I really like that, but, like, that moment of, like, them talking about music and how, it can bring a community together and blah, 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 and, like, the Native Americans had these kinds of people, they were called this, West Africa, they were called this, and, so on and so forth, and then at the end of that, they say, like, and, the problem is that it can also attract evil, and
Mhm.
then it gets into the actual movie, which takes place in Mississippi during the
Jim Crow era, so you
60s? Yeah, during this,
yeah.
I wanna know the exact date though. 19 wow, I was way off. I said the 60s.
Yeah, it was like Jim Crow was in
1932.
the '60s. Or
Yeah,
was in
no, you're
the
right.
what?
It was not. That was it was 1932.
Okay, I thought it was the '30s, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm yes, continue.
Yeah, so then it goes into, it opens up to the preacher boy driving up to the church, and he looks
He's in
disheveled.
shambles. Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say disheveled, but that it would be putting it lightly. He's covered
yeah.
in blood, he's clearly injured in some way,
He's
and he
shaken to
walks.
his core. He's like
Yeah.
he's got like a piece of his guitar. You don't even have the whole guitar.
Yeah,
Like,
that I thought was I don't know why that was so strange to me, like, I'm like, "Why hasn't he put that fucking handle down?" Like, you know what I mean? But I
yeah.
think now I understand.
Mhm.
He held on to it because that was, like, his most precious item, you know what I mean? And he was still holding on to the music,
Mhm.
and I think that's what it was, like, he was never gonna let go of the music, I
Mhm.
think that's what I took from that.
Oh, I love that. I agree. I feel like that's kind of what I got out of it too.
And, another thing that I liked is, like, once he walked into the church, it started showing really quick clips of what happened the night before. And I don't know if you noticed that either, but, like, it's showing, like, and it's very disorienting because you don't really see what the clips are, but you know that it's dark,
Mhm.
and you know that it's not good, like, these are bad flashbacks, you know what I mean? Going back and watching it a second time, you can actually see the clips and know what it's a clip of, but when I
What
first
it's
saw it, I'm like, "I
referencing
don't know
back
what the
to.
hell I'm." Yeah, yeah, the first time I looked at it, I'm like, "I have no idea what I'm looking at right now," you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that was very cool, and yeah, so he's back in the church with his preacher father, and he's asking him to, leave the devil behind, like, if you walk into this church, you
Make
need to
this
leave all
choice,
that.
like, "Hey, you gotta
Yeah,
leave you're inviting the devil in by singing all this music, you need to make a choice, like, be at peace, leave all that behind, leave the devil behind," and he's basically met with an ultimatum, essentially.
right, and what I liked about that scene is that he, like, he's waiting for his son to kinda give him an answer, and he never really gives him he they you never hear what his answer was.
Right.
Um,
Because then it cuts
so
to, okay, what happened this night? You get
yeah, so now
introduced to
it
Michael B.
cuts
Jordan.
it cuts to the night before, and it shows him in the field, and the people are asking him, like, "Hey, like, where are you playing tonight? Like, where can we hear you?" You know what I mean? And he's like, "Oh, I don't know." He's not giving anybody an answer. So you're like, what are they all asking him about? And he goes and gets his guitar, and he meets up with his cousins.
Yeah. Something I thought that was super funny when they start recruit so after this, we get introduced, they show their intentions of, "Hey, we wanna do this juke night." I love that there's this huge emphasis on community and how, like, they really gotta get together and stick together to make anything happen kind of, you know what I mean? And then
Yeah,
also, they have the KKK, in the movie, and you see that division and that ugliness, and it's like it reminds you of, like, how much they have to stick together, especially in this time, because they're free, right? But they're not free. You know what I mean?
exactly. Like, and they know it. They know that they're
Mhm.
not really free yet. You know what I mean? They still got to deal with Jim Crow, and that is for some time that they have to deal with Jim Crow. So
Dark
I did
time.
like
I
that
love that
badass.
they made the emphasis on it though, because they wanted the viewer to be uncomfortable, and because,
Yeah,
they wanted it to be in your face, and I appreciated that. I appreciated the fact that they put it out there, you know what I mean?
yeah,
It gave a lot of realness, to the scenes. It gave a lot of understanding to, like, hey, why they're recruiting, why they're coming together, why they're being strict at the door, all those things, because, when they finally have the night, they recruit all these people, and sorry to jump around a little bit, but they finally have the night when they had, these people come in trying to who weren't part of their community trying to join their Jew club, right? They end up saying no, but not because they knew they were in danger. It was a different type of danger, you
Right.
know? So we can get a little more deeper into that, but I when they're recruiting the community, hilarious scene, right? He's trying to convince the harmonica guy, come on, come on. He's like, hey, I got a good thing going. I could drink all the liquor I want at my spot. They're gonna be here in another 10 years. They're gonna outlive me. If I come for you tonight and I lose my job, like, I don't know that you're gonna even be open
That's
tomorrow. He lets
yeah.
him taste
Yep.
some beer, bro. Okay. He's
I
like, I
gotta
got this
say,
at my juke bar, right? He tastes that
yeah,
beer, and all of a sudden he's like, next scene, he's
yeah,
like on that. Everybody's getting together. He's like,
yes.
okay.
The
He's like,
mark
I
of a
got
true
500 more bottles like that.
yeah, the mark of a true alcoholic. You know what I mean?
He was there for
Having
his
my own
music and his drinks and a good time.
yeah. So having my own struggles with alcohol, that scene definitely resonated with me because, this guy like and I love his storyline,
Yeah.
God, what was his character's name? It's gonna drive me nuts.
Delta Slim.
Delta Slim, thank you. Yeah, I definitely related a lot to Delta Slim, and when he drank I gotta say the acting there was incredible because when he drank that beer, I
Mm,
tasted it. Like, I tasted it, you know what I mean? I was like, "Damn, that beer looks real good right now," you know?
bro, that had
Especially
me
in
like a
Mississippi,
baby on
everyone
a
looks hot.
bottle.
Yeah, yeah, put a nipple on it and I'm
You're
good.
right.
Like, dude, like, it's so and it's great. I love when they do, like, they do these Southern movies and everyone always looks, like, so sweaty and stuff like that, and, like, the uncomfortableness of it, you know what I mean? Like, you almost feel too hot,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
too humid, And so when he drinks the beer, it was refreshing, you know?
Mhm.
So I definitely love that was able that convinced was the thing that convinced him, like, it was he was truly an alcoholic, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So yeah, that was a fun scene getting him to go, and he's obviously very convincing. And
Yeah.
then in that same scene, you get introduced to the white girl.
Mary, who was played by, Haley Steinfeld, which online, everybody really loved, I guess, the screen time between Michael B. Jordan and her, like, the chemistry, I guess. People really enjoyed that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, they very
Fantastic.
much they were very into character. You finally get introduced to her, and she comes out with that line
Which one?
where she's like, "Oh, well, you
Oh,
ain't going
yeah, when
down, you know?"
she's like, "You," yeah, I'm like, yeah, she's that, he was good and bad, basically.
Yeah, she basically starts going into detail about, "Well, I just assumed that, things were fine since we got down and dirty last time." But she says it
Yeah,
way better, but with that same attitude, that same like that, "My bad, like, I
yeah.
didn't realize when
My
you were down in my pants."
Yeah. My thing with that is, like, when you're first introduced to her, you're like, "What is this white bitch doing, and why is she" like, even the way she talked was, like, kinda like, that's it almost feels like you're, trying to talk black, you know what I mean?
Mm.
And then you come to find out that she's mixed.
Right, you're right. I forgot
Yeah.
about the fact she was like
Yeah.
her grandpa was half black or black?
One of her grandparents was half black,
Yeah.
so she's a quarter black, I guess, or one of her parents no, no, it was her grandparents. So she was
Yeah,
like,
it was her grandfather
she
was
she
half
had
black.
a yeah, she had a little something something in her. So, she always felt like that was her community
Yeah, and she
somehow.
also, I think, to have known all these people for all these years, and she was actually, like, advocated for the Black community in this era, which would have been, like, completely taboo for somebody who would have been white, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, man.
So,
Yeah, so I definitely loved her character,
I feel
but
like her intro into the movie was, like, it was just such a punch, and it was a good opening for her, you know?
yeah, it was a big intro. It was a big introduction to that character. Yeah,
She
they went
nailed
hard
it
for
for
that.
sure, and
Yeah.
I saw that clip multiple times before I watched the movie, which is kinda why I thought the movie plot was gonna be a little longer. I felt like it was short, the movie plot, like, I wanted more of it, but I do feel like they saved it at the end. I do feel like they
Mhm.
saved it at the end. So, they
Mhm.
finally get to this, they finally get all the people to go to this juke.
Well, do not brush over the Asian people that were running the store. That I don't know why that family, like, they had, like, a big personality, you know what I mean? And, like,
Yeah.
and second of all, I did not expect the voice that came out. Like, they had such thick Southern accents, and
Yeah.
that threw me off a little bit. Not
Yeah.
gonna lie. I was like
Mississippi.
yeah, I was like, "Whoa." Like,
Whoa.
that wasn't what I was expecting.
Yeah. I wanna
So
say a
that
joke,
was
but I gotta be careful.
so yeah, so that was, that they introduced those characters, but when Stack goes to the, cotton field to go get cornbread, the dude, the
Mhm.
bouncer,
Yep.
and he's like, "Man, I got a quota to fill, blah, blah, blah," and he's like, "Oh, well, what if I pay you enough well, your wife will let you sleep with her, and she might even let you put your penis in her mouth or whatever," and and he's like, "You can't disrespect my wife like that," and the wife was like, "I don't know, maybe you should go with him."
He was like she's like, "How much money?"
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
For real, I was like, "Now that's a." He's like, "That's a good woman." I was like, "That
Yep.
is a good woman." She's like, "Hey, we got bills and shit. Like, go do whatever you gotta do."
We'll find out what he's getting into. Because mind you,
Yeah,
these men have we kinda actually glazed right over that. These men have, like, a criminal history, all right? They rob
yeah. So
banks as,
everyone,
like, their living, so them coming back to town is like, "Whoa, these 2 people who everybody knows about these twins."
yeah, everyone considers them to be bad news. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And then you come to find out that because of who their father was, everyone always assumed that, like, everyone assumed from the beginning, before they even did anything, everyone assumed from the beginning that they were going to be bad news, and so that pushed them into, like, all right, well, if everyone already thinks that I'm a criminal, then I might as well be. No, nobody's giving me an opportunity to do anything other than be a criminal.
Yeah, and I will say at least they were good criminals. I mean, you're gonna be the best at it, you might as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, might as well go 100%. But it
Right.
really, I think there was some messaging there, you know what I mean? Like, everyone assumed that they were gonna be bad, so then they turned out, quote unquote, bad, you know what I mean? But that's not what they always wanted. It's just that nobody ever gave them the opportunity, you
Yeah,
know?
and that's why that's like I was saying, the feedback that I was seeing online and a lot from, like, the Black community saying, like, essentially that this is still relevant today, just
Mhm,
dressed differently. That was kind
mhm.
of the overwhelming what I was seeing, when it came to the nuances, of course, like I said, I saw some other stuff about, like, the hoodoo and all that stuff, which was really interesting to go down, but I thought that it was, obviously prominent enough to still have this impact, you know?
Yeah, well, like you said, there was a lot of symbolism in the movie,
Lots of
but
it.
without being, like, preachy, and it
Without being too woke either.
that too, you know what I mean? Nobody
Yeah.
wants to be lectured at, or like, sometimes, like, if you go too woke, you know what I mean? Like, it ends up, people are like, I'm not trying to go to the movies to feel shitty, you know?
Well, yeah, and I kind of feel like it ends up tainting the messaging, you know what I
You got to be
mean?
subtle. In movies, everything has to, no matter what your messages, it has to be subtle. You gotta let the person get there. It can't
Yes.
just be overtly like, "This is the message we're trying to send." That's not art. You know what I mean? Art is subtle.
Mhm. The whole point of appreciating symbolism, in my opinion, is that when it's not blatant and you're like, "Oh my gosh," when you pick up on it, when you like you said, when you watch it that second time, it just you caught that thing you didn't realize the first time, you know?
Absolutely. So yeah, I do want to talk about when Smoke goes back to his wife. I'm not really sure what she is to him, like his girl.
Annie?
He goes back to the girl, and she's like some kind of, I don't know, hoodoo person, you know what I mean? And he visits, like, you find out that they had a baby together that passed away, and he's put flowers on the grave, and, like, he's got some sadness in him, you know what I mean?
And they keep
Which
showing this, like, small little grave that must have been in their backyard, and he makes this
Mhm.
comment, "Why didn't any of your magic work on my kid then?" So,
Yeah.
obviously, you realize that they gave birth to a child that then lost their life.
Yeah, exactly. So you see that underlying sadness with him. And
Mhm.
what was interesting at that point is that you see Smoke as, he's like kind of deep, like he's the deep one, he's the
Mm.
one that's got some sadness in him, whatever. And then you see Stack, I almost called him Snack. He was a snack.
Mm.
So, but then you see Stack and you think, okay, he's the abrasive one. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like like there's you don't see any sadness in him, or he's not deep. He's like kind of like shallow. He fucked this white bitch and you know what I mean? Like and took off on her. You know, like so that's the image that you're getting at that moment. And then you move on to the actual. Now it's well before the actual party. The party's about to ensue, and you get to when the couple at the house. And I think you should discuss that scene.
So, yeah, they get right before this party is about to ensue. You see this man, he essentially looks like it's a view of essentially the back of him and the house is in front of him. And they're in like the middle of nowhere, okay? This is looking like Courage the Cowardly Dog's house. That's like a perfect description of
Oh,
this. Is
yes,
it not?
dude. Yes,
It
absolutely.
that's where they filmed this, okay?
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
weird shit that happens in that show, just bring that onto this set, all right?
Man, I haven't seen that. Wow.
I
Good
know,
callback.
throwback. Let me know if you were born before the year 2000.
Yeah.
So, you see this, like, image of this guy who it's like he fell out of the sky, right? And it's his back, and he's just, like, smoking, like, he looks like he's, like, coming out of a fire, like, at first, I thought
He's
he
all
was coming out of a
blistery.
burning car for a second, but I was like, "That doesn't make sense because he drops in, right? So, he starts walking up to this house, and he's like, smoke's coming off of him, he goes up to the door, and he's like the wife answers, right? He's like, "Oh,
Mhm.
ma'am, these men are after me. Please, I'm begging you for shelter." And she ends up like looking back at her husband and you see that they have a clan mask on the seat. So you're like, "Ooh,
Mhm.
okay. Like maybe
Not
not
just
the
the mask,
best
they had the
people
whole
ever in the
outfit.
fucking world,
He
right
had
out
the
the
whole
worst
outfit like
doorstep."
she just yeah, he had the whole outfit like she just laid it out from ironing it. Like
Yeah.
he
And
she just ironed the sheets.
you see the man, all right, who is smoking. Can I just say that they're vampires? We all know that, right?
At this point, we can say it's a vampire movie.
It's a
Yes.
vampire movie, okay? If you didn't know that much. So, the
What did
vampire, he's
Annie
walking
call
up.
him though? Annie called him something else. Haints or something?
What does she call him?
Haints?
While you
Haints.
look
Yeah. It's
agents.
no, Haints.
Haints.
Yeah, it's Haints. Haints. She might have said it differently. I can't remember what the
Haints.
actual.
All
Yeah, I
damn
can't remember what
Haints
the.
out here. Something
But
like that.
they're malevolent spirits or restless ghosts in southern United States folklore, which would make sense since they're in Mississippi. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. This
So she
this
called them
makes
Haints,
complete
but
sense.
they're essentially vampires.
So,
But yes.
he's a Haint, all right? He's a vampire. He's up to the doorstep again. He's like, "Please let me in." He sees the clan mask, and he kind of has like a moment of like, "Oh, okay, like I got you," right?
Mm-hmm.
And the husband comes over and he's like, I think he ends up saying, offering money.
So yeah, so he offers him 3 pieces of gold.
Okay, yes. And the woman's kind of like, He ends up convincing her, like, "Hey, let me in." So the next scene is of these other men pulling up now to this Courage Cowardly Dog house, right? And there's like you see the buggy or whatever they're driving in the back, and there's like maybe 3 or 4 guys you can see, and he comes over and he's
No, there
like,
was no buggy. They were all on horses.
"Were they on horses?"
The Indians, yeah, or the
Okay,
Native
okay, okay.
Americans.
But
Yeah.
what I'm thinking like horse and buggy, but they're just on straight
Yeah.
horses.
Yeah.
But so anyways, you see there's a few men in the background. This man comes up to the door and he's like, "Hey, have you seen this man that we're looking for? He's very dangerous." And she's like,
Mhm.
"Nope, sorry. Nope, I haven't seen anything." And he's like, "Ma'am, like, I don't think you understand. Like, this is a really bad motherfucker, all right?"
Mhm.
And he's got his friends in the back, and he's like, you can see the sun's coming down, all right? Like sunset is behind him. And the guy behind him's like, we better get going before it's too late. And he's like, he looks back like, like I really think that he's in this house, but I guess we gotta go, right? He ends up telling her, like, I really hope you didn't invite them in. So you see the sun setting in the background, okay? The guy behind him's like, "Hey, look, we gotta go before it gets too dark. We're gonna get ourselves in danger." So he essentially
Mhm.
says, like, "I really hope you did not invite him into your house, at least that much." And he leaves. And she goes back to tell her husband, "Hey, these men came by." And when she goes back there, she sees that man that she lets in on top of her husband, and she's just in a state of shock, and then boom, cutscene. So you're not
Yep.
quite sure. Obviously, we can understand as the viewer, right? Okay, he's sucking the blood out of him, right? But we don't get a
Or
full picture of it. We see some kind of attack.
yeah. Yeah, he's obviously attacked him. He's covered in blood. It looks like he probably ate some of him, you know what I mean? But what I like about that scene is that he tells her like, "Don't worry, he'll be fine in a second."
Oh,
and
yes,
so
that's right.
yeah. So now you're getting an idea of what kind of monster that you're dealing with, and I don't mean like monster like I mean like when you're watching these types of movies that like have some kind of supernatural being that's attacking a town or whatever. Like, you have certain movies that like you don't see the monster for like a really long time, and then you have other movies that like what the monster is right off rip, like like any of those movies with like sharks, like what a shark looks like, you know what I mean? So this one, you don't you kind of see who the monster is at the beginning, like that he's the bad guy, but you don't quite like you don't have a full understanding of like what you're dealing with yet. So like they do
Right.
still leave some sort of mystery, but not a lot, so yeah. So then I think they cut to the actual party. And I do want to add, because you had mentioned the sun setting in the background, this is where that award for the cinematography comes in, because they had such like beautiful scenes,
Yeah.
that scene where like, it's the Native American is like kind of centered and his crew is behind him and the sun setting behind him. It's a very wide shot, but it's like it's really like it's really pleasing.
Okay, Crippy's calling you. He's in.
So yeah, what I really like is like they have those really beautiful scenes. And I actually think I can pull it up for you just so you can kind of get an idea. A lot of the shots in these movies, like they're very wide shots.
Mhm.
I would love to know what the I would love like to see what an interview with the director would sound like what he had to say about what some of that cinematography was. I'm gonna share my screen. This is when the Native American comes and all right, cool.
Yes.
So yeah, so this is when he comes to like talk to her, and I wish they would have shown more with the Native Americans that are clearly hunting them. I wanted more from that scene, you know what I mean?
Honestly,
Or more from those characters.
I wanted more of the whole movie. Like, I was craving more of it.
I mean, yeah, I could definitely agree with that.
Play it from there.
From
Yeah, go back one. There.
We need to act. He's not what he seems.
mm,
God forbid you let him into your home. And if so, we need to act now.
Kilia! Tushpa! Ikaw kilo kayo sa tushpa chukka kilona.
Jehoya, Chiapisa, Chitakla, Chigi.
Oh, they did have a buggy.
so they did have a buggy, you're right.
They leave off the horse. Oh, there it is.
Yeah. So that scene I thought was very cool because it's ominous, and I thought it was shot wide, but that scene wasn't shot wide.
But it's still beautiful. You still get the scenery, the feel.
Yes. And you start to get a sense of what the rules are, you know what I mean? In all these supernatural thrillers, there's like rules, you know what I mean? For a vampire movie, it's like, oh, if the sun goes down, you got to get inside. In a zombie movie, if you're bit, like that's not you're infected. I can't think of any like other like haunted house. If you go on that house, like, it's haunted, you wake up the spirits, or pet cemetery, like don't bury anything in the pet cemetery because then it's going to come back to life. Like you start to get a sense of like what the rules are in this universe that you're in, which I thought was.
If I could just throw out one OG original rule, let's think
Yeah.
Gremlins, all right? Don't feed the
Yes.
monster.
You can't feed them after midnight. Yes, that is a great example. And just like in Gremlins, just like in this movie, like there is a scene where the old Chinese man gives him the rules. You know what I mean? So now like what the rules are in this universe. Like you can't feed him after midnight, and he's allergic to water or something.
throw them in a microwave, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So,
Then once you actually get into the actual juke party, this is where so much of, again, that scenery, that the substance comes in. When they talk about the fact that music was timeless, that was so beautifully edited, so beautifully put. What you end up seeing is, they're doing their music, playing, they're playing their jams, right? And you see like all these different generations of historically like what music did, right? So you see like the rap era, you see like your pop era. Think of like Michael Jackson, Thriller, like the upcoming of that. You get to see all like there's all these different genres come in, and how all those different genres came at different times, but essentially this was the substance of it, and it was just emphasizing how it is timeless. And I just thought the way that they did that all together was just like a perfect bow on it, And it was throughout the juke party. Like throughout this party, you see like all like it's going, past these people. If you can pull it up, even better. They're going past these people. Just run the clip.
I got you.
This was a great homage to just like that timelessness, the thought behind the cinematography, the directing of it. It didn't need any words or doing too much. The scene spoke for itself. It was great.
Yeah, and you know what? It really starts when Delta Slim starts telling him about what's so special about music,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna share it with you. Get the sound going. All right.
Blues. It wasn't forced on us like that religion. So we brought this with us from home. It's magic what we do. It's sacred. It's big.
There are legends of people born with the gift of making music so true it can pierce the veil between life and death, conjuring spirits from the past and the future.
Somebody take me in your arms tonight. Oh. Somebody take me.
Whole movie. Movie made me want to drink and smoke.
Right?
Kept everything very culturally.
I love a good beat. So wild.
Supposed to make you feel something.
Somebody take me.
Side note.
Yes. Love it.
Oh, you got to watch it. We're gonna leave you on that because that's a great clip. Just motivation to go see it for yourself. And on a side note, during this whole Oscars happening, right before this happened, Timothy Chalamet has this interview with Matthew McConaughey. He has this interview with Matthew McConaughey, and he basically bashes on ballet, like saying ballet's like old, nobody watches that, whatever. I just lost 2 cents of viewership, and he ends up saying, you know, it's like ballet sucks essentially, right?
Timothy or Matthew?
No, Timothy Chalamet says this, and yes. So you know he's still like a young Matthew McConaughey's like, I hear you, okay, all right, like you know trying to save the interview, and essentially when they go to perform, I don't know if you saw in there that clip of the ballet dancer, right? In that scene we just watched, in the red dress, she's like doing a ballet, right? They had this very prominent ballet dancer in the award performance because they performed at the Oscars. Sinners did.
That's cool.
Yeah. And she ends up doing this huge ballet number, and it was kind of like this big slap in the face to Timothy Chalamet, who was up against Michael B. Jordan for Best Actor, and then lost.
How you like them
to
apples?
Michael B. Jordan. Yes, it was poetic justice, if you will. So that being in there was definitely very, very cool to see that they kind of tied all those different genres. Very cool.
Yeah, I dig that. I like that, you know, little dig. Like you thought, you know, you don't like it? Well, now you have to watch it.
Yes.
So at this point, once that big number is put through, this is when the real conflict starts. You see the that guy that the Native Americans were clearly chasing. You see him show up, and he's with the couple whose house that he was into, and you know he attacked that couple, and they look alive and well, as does he. So you know they have some kind of regenerative property to them. You know what I mean? Like this guy is not something that's going to be easy to take down.
Also, before you get too far into it, I think the significance of his number being singing and then things pop off is essentially showing how impactful his voice is. Throughout the movie, you find out just how talented he is. He's amazing on a guitar. He gets this guitar from the twins who are his cousins. He's just, they're basically the reason that he ends up even getting into music, all right? He's so talented, and the reason that things pop off after is because he ends up attracting these vampires with his voice. So
exactly.
The next scene is, you see that the couple that, from the Courage and Cowardly Doghouse, you see them come back. They clearly have some kind of regenerative property, right? And they're there with the vampire. So clearly everyone's been turned, and you're like, oh my goodness, things are about to pop off. They come over to the juke party, right? They have the bouncer in the front, and the bouncer's like, no, you're not coming in here. And they're like, come on, we got jams. And they start singing, and they say this in the movie, in near perfect pitch, and they're still getting a no, and they don't like that. So they're like, we're just going to walk away. We'll be by. We're just going to walk a little slowly, and they walk away playing. In case you guys want to bring us back and invite us in instead.
Yeah.
The guys end up having a conversation at the door, right? Because they call the twins over during this because they need an invite to get in, and they're not getting invited in. They're getting rejected. The twins, one of the guys is like, hey, what would have been the problem if we just let them in? What's the big deal, right?
Well, what really motivated that was the because you see earlier in the scene where people are paying in these wooden nickels, which is what they would pay, the plantation workers. They would pay them in wooden nickels that were only good at the local store, the local general store or whatever. And they're, so now the brothers have a bit of a problem. They've invested a lot of money. They need this place to work out. You know what I mean? And not only that, they've also stolen a lot of stuff to make this work out, and they need that money to keep it going.
Right. And of course, what do they offer? Money.
Exactly. Which is when the white woman, who's not fully a white woman,
Haley
decides...
She was Mary, I believe. She was Mary.
Mary. You're right.
Yeah. So Mary ends up being, coming in. Continue, Evie.
So Mary decides, listen, if we let them come and spend real money, that's going to help you guys, right? We should just let them in and whatever. Always, it's always a white woman with the bright ideas, but...
Why don't we go separate? Why don't we just let them in?
Yeah, exactly. All the black people in the movie were like, nah, don't let them fucking be, they're bad news. And the white woman was like, come on, guys.
I know. They're like, do you have eyes, Mary?
They were creepy. That song sucked.
Yeah. That song was super creepy, though. They were creepy. I love that they
Pick
made
a Robin
creepy.
Or whatever. Yeah.
But one of the guys ends up saying like, "Hey, what if we just let him in?" And Michael B. Jordan's character ends up one of the twins ends up being like, "Yeah." And then what? The next thing is one of them looks at that woman for too long. One of them gets a little too close when they're dancing. They're not even to them again. And I think it's such a paying homage to the situation, right? Because they're not worried about the threat that they actually are, which is they're fucking vampires. They're worried
Yes.
about the societal
Threat.
repercussions of the possibility of them coming into this establishment.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, they're worried for their safety. It might be it might not be the clear and
Safety
present
they should
danger.
be worried about, but they're
Yeah,
still worried
yeah.
for their lives.
Exactly, because he's 100% right. If something like too many things can go wrong, where all of us are going to be in like maybe life-threatening trouble. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
The risk wasn't the juice wasn't worth the squeeze on that for him. No.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. All right. So Mary goes out there, and she's gonna go talk to Remick, I think his name was.
Yeah, I think so. Which is like essentially the head vampire. This is the vampire who jumps down, who's like, smoke coming off of him. He's the OG vampire throughout the whole movie. There's only vampire originally that you see that he doesn't turn.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So she goes out there, and obviously she gets turned into a vampire. And then of course, because they know her, she gets to the door and Cornbread lets her in, because
She's
why
like,
wouldn't
"What,
he?
you're not gonna let me in?" He's like, "You can come in. What do you mean?" And she's like,
Yep.
"Great," because she needs to be invited back.
Again,
she makes
the
her way back
invitation.
in, and she goes straight to Stack, right?
Yep, go straight to Stack.
And she's looking to get a little busy.
Yep. Pulls him aside, and now we're getting deep in the weeds, so from here, this will be a spoiler alert, right? Anything, obviously there was like some little things that may or may not have known from coming up to this part, but nothing that was detrimental to the story. Like, these are things that you would have known from watching the previews or anything like that. From this point forward, there are spoilers. So if you have not seen the movie and you plan on seeing the movie, this is where you're going to want to stop. So they let Mary back into the building, and she immediately goes to Stack and, takes him into another room where,
freaking nasty.
Yeah. The weird thing was the drool. Did not like that.
My gosh,
Did not like that at all.
I hated that.
Yeah, the drool thing with the vampires was not a fan, all right? And maybe that's because I am easily grossed out, you know what I mean? Like, I could watch a movie where where somebody gets their head chopped off, but show me a movie where somebody's like drooling or vomiting, and I'm like, ugh, that's disgusting.
Well, when he was like, "Oh, baby, you're drooling," I thought it was gonna be like this embarrassing moment or something. He was like, "Let me get some of that," or she's like, "You want some of this?" He's like, "Yeah." This is turned into a snuff film very quickly.
It was wild. Yeah, so she ends up attacking Stack, and it's a very sad moment because everyone walks in, all the main characters walk into the room. So you got Smoke comes in, you got Anne that comes in, or Annie that comes in, Smoke's wife or girlfriend.
And then you have Preacher Boy, because he's the one who walks in on them. He sees them getting freaky, right?
Yeah.
And then he goes,
Exactly.
Get Smoke. Smoke comes in, and now he's getting his neck ripped off. So everybody starts charging in here, okay? And
yeah,
they're freaking
exactly.
out. Mary ends up running out after she's like being psychotic. I think they shot her a couple times. She ends up getting back up. She ends up running out. They go to attend to Stack. My gosh, Michael B. Jordan and Michael B. Jordan's hands. I was so sad, bro. I was so sad.
that was a very
Jordan.
sad scene. No, Michael B. Jordan, don't die on my.
You can't do this to yourself. Save you. Yeah. Okay, he's like,
save yourself.
I will say that I noticed a lot of the neck bites. People were still talking pretty well. So I guess.
Yeah, they avoid the larynx.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding. I didn't have to say.
I'm like, maybe our voice boxes is here. Because he's like, when I think of that's what I'm thinking, right? I'm not thinking.
Yeah.
Anyways, I love you, brother. You know what I'm saying? But,
yeah.
It's all good. It's all good. He's holding him down. He's pouring out. He ain't making it, all right? It's very clear he's not making it. He's holding his self-brother, and he's like giving himself a speech, they end up having like this I love you moment, and he passes on. Dies in his arms. Dies in his
Yep.
arms.
This is the point, and you find this in every movie, like these supernatural movies, where the people that are still alive, right, have to work together. You know, everyone has an idea. Everyone, you know, these people think we should run. These people think we should bunker down. These people think this, you know, whatever. And so it's always the same formula.
Yeah.
So they're all, you know, in this, you know, now they have to figure out what they're going to do, you know.
Right.
So they have garlic, so now they got to make everyone eat some garlic to make sure they're not a vampire, you know.
Well, right before they do this garlic, the reason they do that is because Twin ends up waking up.
Exactly.
Yes,
Yes,
he
he
ends up
wakes up and he
waking
starts
up.
attacking.
Yep, he wakes up, he starts attacking. They're like, wasn't he dead? And she's like, and he's like, I checked his pulse. He was gone. All right.
Yep.
He ends up like breaking his way through the door, and she grabs a glass of garlic, like
Pickled garlic.
pickled garlic, and she throws the jar on Stack, who's been now is a vampire, and he gets burned, and he ends up running out, and so then everybody gets in a circle, and they're like, everybody eat a piece of garlic because we need to know who is real and who isn't.
Yep. And then it's all, in these situations, there's always like the one, the contrarian, you know what I mean? That's like, this is stupid. Every time it's formulaic, you know what I mean? Like they like in every movie, it's like this. There's one person that's like, this is stupid, like, you know. And it's like, let's just eat the garlic, like, you know, like what are we doing here?
Eat the fucking garlic.
Yeah.
I think
So
they actually threaten her too. They're like, you can either get a bullet in the head or you can eat the garlic. You choose right now.
yeah, she was still bitching. She was like, I couldn't be the pickled garlic.
I know.
I know. You worried about garlic? You worried about that? You don't like garlic when you just saw everyone die, like, you know.
Well, also, mind you, that this is like a group. They've now like gone down to like maybe 8 people, okay? Because after Stack dies, Smoke's bullshit, obviously, because he just lost his brother. So he kicks everybody out. Everybody get out! Unknowingly sending the entire group into the arms of the vampires.
Exactly.
So now it's all them on the inside, and we can only imagine what's on the outside.
Exactly. And that scene is, I like it a lot because it's the symmetry, right? So you had the scene where Preacher Boy is singing and, you know, everything's like nice and whatever. And then you have the scene afterwards where it's the vampires all singing and, you know, and playing their music, you know what I mean? Like, they're dancing to the devil's tune. And I'm actually going to share that scene because I almost liked it better than I did the first one. Because it was so creepy. You know what I mean? It was perfectly creepy in my humble opinion, right?
Okay. All right.
All
right. So yeah, this scene is great. Pull it up. Yeah. Run the clip.
Yeah. I love the symmetry.
Come on. You don't hear that? They playing music.
I cut a stout black thorn for to banish ghosts and goblins. A brand new pair of brogues to rattle over the ball and frighten all the dogs.
Let's get back inside. Come on.
To Dublin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, in the merry month of May, from me home my stars had left, the girls of June were near the broken hearted salute to Father dear. Kiss me, darling mother, drank a pint of
cornbread.
I know.
You see him?
I loved him in this movie.
I did. This makes me think of going to like the
They did a good job at looking so creepy.
St. Patty's parades in Boston. That's what it makes me think of. Oh, Stack. So you get the idea. I really like that scene because it's so dark and it's just so this contrast and is just so good. You know what I mean? Like
Not
I
to
loved
mention that none of those fucking people would have been dancing and singing to all that if
No.
they weren't under that. This is all the way to Dublin. No. They're like, put the stake in my heart. This is against my well-being.
Yeah, I definitely I loved it. I love that scene. I love the contrast. I love when movies do that, when they show like they do like almost like a side by side. It can't be like one right after the other. You know, you got to have some time in between. But I love that side by side. You know what I mean? That contrast. Yeah, I love that part. So of course at this point, this is the fight ensues. You know, and they're fighting for their lives, and
They're wildly outnumbered at this point,
Yeah,
obviously.
and-
But they have the protection of being in the house. Until, tell me that scene didn't piss you off all the way off. Okay, so before we even get into that, promises are being made, right? Because people are like, okay, you know, Annie, she has experience, right, in the witchcraft realm and, you know, the spirit realm. That we've already seen the foreshadowing of that when he says, why didn't any of your magic work on our kid, right? This brings back, she knows what to do with the garlic. She knows that they need to be invited. She already knows, okay, how to handle this. So she's in here, right? She's like, hey, promise me that if it's me, you kill me before I go, okay? She's like,
Before I
somebody
turn.
waiting for me on the other side.
Loved it.
I thought they definitely like played on like mommy heartstrings really well with everything with the baby, right? So she's like, you know, make sure you promise me. So now they're all in there. They're like, she's like, all right, we need wood, we need garlic, like we need to be prepared just in case. All we have to do is just make it until the morning, okay? They can't stand the sunlight. We just gotta outweigh them, okay? So they're waiting, right? They're all prepared, you know, and they're like, come on, let us in. The Asian woman realizes, like, her husband had gone to the car, okay, to go get the car ready for them to leave before they realized they were going to be surrounded by vampires. So she realizes her husband's still out there. They're like, girl, chill. You can't be going out there. You ain't going to make it home if you go out there. And she's like, you're expecting me not to wait for my husband. That's my man. And they're like, bitch, do you want to die? And so they convince her to leave. They convince her to stay. It's actually aggravating to me because I'm like, I would have been like, girl, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, you want to leave? Leave.
Leave. You ain't going to stress me out all night.
Be out then, all right?
Yes. I would have been like, kick rocks. All right, we gotta know this shit. Yeah. Of course. And I think that, of course, it had to be the Asian girl, right? It wasn't going to be
Grace.
Annie. It wasn't going to be Smoke.
No.
It had to be her. Like, she goes.
Although you could argue it was Smoke's fault for not taking Stack out of the fucking room. He didn't want to let him out of the room. He didn't want to take him outside. Annie was the only person in there that was like had any sense at all. She's like, you got to put him outside before he gets back up. You know what I mean?
Valid. Valid.
And Smoke was like, no, you're not putting my brother outside.
Okay, but they made it past that, and they were in like imminent danger at this point. And this Asian girl goes, "All right, motherfuckers, you come in here."
Yeah.
Girl, it's like 50-5.
The other thing is like, why are you speaking for me? Like,
I was like, y'all better come
speak
get
for
her.
you. Speak for you, bitch, not for all of us.
Choices were made, and I was not a part of the decision making.
Nah, dude, it was fucked up. So the standoff and
aggravated in that scene. Like, girl, you better. I'm gonna let you kill every single one of them because I know you didn't just do that.
Yeah, and you know, Q was like, dumb bitch. Like, I watched it with Q, and she was like, why the fuck? I was like, would you invite me in? And she was like, no, you stay outside.
I'll have fond memories of you. For those who don't know, Q is Yvette's fiance, who happens to be biracial herself. So she's like, listen, I might be half white, but I ain't gonna do all that. That's just the truth.
One of these days, I gotta tell you about the white people shit that I've taken her to do.
We got to do a whole segment on just white people shit.
Yeah, like shit that white people have convinced me to do. And yeah, one time I accidentally convinced her to do some white people shit, and she was none too pleased after the fact. She was like, why would you do this to us?
Well, to be fair, Kiana, Yvette's fiance, is adopted. So she's like Dominican personality community-wise, but then inside she's also half white and half black. She's like
before
the
she was
United Nations
adopted
in one person.
Yeah, before she was adopted, she was with a Hispanic foster family, and so I want to say that Spanish was her first language, if I'm not mistaken. But for a long time, she thought that she was Hispanic, Dominican specifically, and then she found out that that was not the case.
Needless to say, Kiana would have lived through this night. Okay.
Oh yeah, she would have kicked me outside if I was trying to bring somebody in. She'd be like, "No, you could go. Nobody's coming in. You can leave if you want." Yeah. So
baby, I got you a picture on the wall. I'll never forget you.
yeah, so I got like love you, but yeah. So this chick lets in like basically invites the devil into the house. And this big brawl starts happening. I thought it was very intense. A couple jump scares. You're like, no, like doing the whole thing.
Stress.
It's a stressful situation.
Mind you, so the vampires come to the door and they give them the opportunity, like, look, we just want the preacher boy. We want your voice. We know we can track millions. That's the voice of God. So essentially the symbolism is that, like, the devil tempting you, right? And now everyone around him he was like, I'll let everybody else live. Y'all can walk free. I just want him. And they're like, no, you're not taking him. That's our cousin, essentially. So they all get invited in. Get a bunch of these jump scares, you get nervous, Annie, unfortunately, she gets bit. She's bleeding out. Smoke has to go over and stake her in the heart. It was such a sad watch with that one.
Yeah. But I was happy that he kept the promise, because I was worried that he was gonna, that he wouldn't have learned that he wasn't gonna learn his lesson from Stack. But I do like that, like if you finally got a character that learns their lesson, you know what I mean? Like, well, in these scary movies, like in the scary movies, you always have those characters that like, didn't we just go through this? You know what I mean? Like, it always happens. And like, so it was nice to see, it was a nice change of pace that like, oh, like, he learned, okay, like I might not want to do this, but I have to do it, So yeah, so he ends up having to take her out. And then at this point, this is the all is lost moment, and, what I liked about this scene moving forward is right after that, Delta Slim sacrifices himself to save the rest. And I really, like I said, I related a lot to the Delta Slim character because I've had my own struggle with alcohol, So like it was that like he knew that alcohol was a problem for him. He knew he was a drunk. He had kind of just let it all go and allowed himself to be a drunk. And I've seen that with people, you know what I mean? And I can see how you get to that point. So this was that moment where he gets to kind of like redeem himself, and his storyline in general, honestly, like if you've made it this far in the video, and you're, even if you've already seen the movie and maybe you want to go back and watch it, pay closer attention to Delta Slim's storyline. It just like, because I paid very close attention to it, and I really I just appreciate this was a man that went through real hardship, and that's how he ended up being a drunk. No one wakes up in the morning and decides, I'm gonna be a drunk. You know what I mean? This happens over time, and there's things that you're holding on to, resentments that you have, tragedy, trauma, all these things that you hold like in your heart, and you end up drowning it with alcohol. And even when all is gone due to alcoholism, you can still find redemption. And that's what Delta Slim was doing here. He was finding his redemption, and he sacrificed himself by cutting his arm to attract all the vampires to him so that everyone else could escape. And I just thought it was a great a great ending to his story. I really enjoyed it. So at this point, there's only a few people left. You got Preacher Boy, who we all know is the prize here, and then you got Smoke and Stack. Right? So Smoke is still alive, Stack is a vampire, and you get to this great scene where, this point in the movie where Preacher Boy is being taken by the vampire, or he's like trying to run away from the main vampire. And Smoke and Stack are having the ultimate battle, which I'm actually pretty curious how you work that out when it's the same actor in the, you know what I mean? So I thought that was probably, that would be interesting to see how he does it. So the vampire's trying to get him to, come with him. And he's telling him like all these things. He's like drowning him. He's trying to tell him basically like evil always prevails type of speech. And you get to this scene where Smoke has Stack pinned, and he's got a stake over his heart. You know, they're having this conversation, and it's very intense. I don't know if you want me to share my screen for this.
Yes, please.
All right,
Visual
cool.
on this would be great. This is before or after the prayer. Here we go.
I want to say this is after, or maybe during.
Yeah.
I think it's during the prayer. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I wanted to touch on that. Perfect.
Let me know if you need me to go back a little bit.
Yeah, go back like a few seconds.
Damn, stand right to her.
Hey, stay your ass down.
Oh, pause it for real quick. So at this point, obviously he's fighting with his twin brother. This is a big moment here, okay? So as this is going on inside, they're outside doing their own thing. Preacher boy is over there. He's praying, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He ends up praying, and they all start praying. So essentially, it's paying homage to, the devil also knows the word. And little clip.
That's a great point.
Those men lied to themselves and lied to us. They told stories of a God above and a devil below, and lies of a dominion of man over beast and earth.
Sorry I couldn't keep you safe. Don't be sorry. You always did.
We are earth and beast and God. We are woman and man. We are connected. You and I. To everything.
So
Well
this is the climax, right? This is the real peak of it. Obviously,
This is
the
what we've
guitar
been waiting for the whole movie.
had silver in it, which is why they're all freaking out. But what I want to point out about that scene is that the assumption is that Smoke stabbed Stack through the heart with the stake. That becomes important later. So at this point, the sun comes out and all the vampires burst into flames. Preacher Boy has made it. Smoke has made it through the night.
So now at this point, essentially, you have the beginning of the movie. You're finally back at that point. It brings us back to that moment of how he ended up at that church, covered in blood, disheveled, because he just went through this. We just saw the crazy night that he had and everything that transpired.
Yeah. Yep. So this is where the movie starts to tie a bow on everything.
Mm-hmm.
You obviously want to know what Smoke does at this point. Smack. You obviously want to know what Smoke does at this point. And Smoke basically goes on a suicide mission. And he knows that the guy that sold him that property, his plan all along was to hurt them in some way. So he sets himself up and they have this big shootout and he basically gets his vengeance, right?
He gets his lick back and it was amazing.
Yes. It's really a great scene. You feel like justice and all that stuff. Unfortunately, Smoke does die, but he got his get back. And you think at that point, that has to be the end of the movie. Now, this is a major spoiler alert. So just a reminder, all right?
This is our final warning on the spoiler alert. This is the ending.
Yep. So now it cuts to a man playing the blues, and I'm sorry, I'll trim the fat on this.
Míralo.
All right, so now it cuts to a man playing the guitar on stage, and if you're not a big blues fan, you're not gonna know who this individual is. However, my fiance definitely knows who this is because she's a fan, and she was like, "Oh, it's Buddy Guy," and I was like, "Oh, fuck, Buddy Guy is," but Buddy Guy is a real. And I think he actually does have these scars on his face, if I'm not mistaken. But it shows him, and he's got the scars on his face.
And he's in his 80s. He's an old man now.
Yep. So you assume that Preacher Boy has now became Buddy Guy, and he chose that question at the beginning of the movie where he's like, are you gonna leave the devil behind, that kind of thing, or are you gonna stay here in the church with me? So you realize that he ended up choosing music anyways. Yep. And because that was his dream, and so he chose music. So he's playing at this venue, and you're like, wow, this must be the end. Nope, still not the end. So now Buddy is sitting at the bar having a drink, and bouncer comes up to him. He's like, hey, you got a couple guys outside that want to talk to you. And you get the sense that he knows who's there. And who walks in but fucking Stack and Mary. And they're wearing 90s clothes. It's a very fun scene, all right?
This was like my favorite part because this happens after the credits. This next scenes that we're talking about, we see a little bit of credits, we see a scene, we see a little bit more credits, and then we see the last scene. So I was craving so much more of like, well, what do you mean? What happens, right? So for them to come back in, you see Preacher Boy chooses music, you see them come in, they haven't aged a day, right? They end up being, they're still vampires, they're still, they're in the 90s clothing. They come in and it's like, oh my gosh, you got what you were looking for at the end, which was big. Exactly. For me, at least. Continue.
And I love that because then you're like, wait, how is Stack still alive? And you come to find out that Smoke wasn't able to do it. He just couldn't kill his brother. So he made him promise him that he wouldn't hurt Preacher Boy. He wouldn't hurt Sammy, and that would be the end of it. And he held his promise. He gives Buddy, Preacher Boy, Sammy, he gives him the option of, do you want me to turn you? I can make it so it doesn't hurt, and I can give you years. You know what I mean? Like, you can keep on living. You don't have to die. Yeah. And it was a beautiful moment because Buddy turns him down, and he's like, no, I've had enough of this world. And you realize from Smoke's storyline that there's more, or the message is that there's more to life than what we have here. You know what I mean? Live it to the best. But live it so that, like, Buddy lived the life that he wanted to live. So at the end of your life, you feel fulfilled. You don't, you're not worried about death. Like, you almost welcome it. And I thought that was a beautiful message that like he got to live the life that he wanted. You know what I mean? And if you don't have any regrets at the end of your life, you're not going to be afraid.
That was a perfect way to explain that. Yeah, it was beautifully put. And he even says, Preacher Boy says, before all that went down, that was the best night of my life.
Yep.
And that's the end of it.
So at this point, we are going to give our own rankings. And I'm not sure if we've explained our rankings before, but basically any movie between a 1 and a 3 is not worth, 1 through 3 is not worth watching. 4 through, you say 7, it's worth watching, and it's, middle of the road, like, it's a good movie. 8 through 10 is a great movie. All right. So just a cold ranking, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
what do you got?
By the way, we just came up with this, so now it's official ranking.
Yes, it is. All right, so what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a solid 8.2. So I would have gone with just a straight 8, but I'm going to give it the extra 0.2 because of the deep dive that we've done in it, just knowing that, the relationship between Michael B. Jordan, the director, how the community felt about it, the nuances, us kind of going deep dive on it. Normally, I like to watch a movie at least twice to really get all the details of it. So this is going to be my raw first go at it. But yeah, I'm going to give it an 8.2. And the reason that I'm going to leave it at an 8.2 is because I felt like I wanted more of a plot. I kind of wanted a little bit more. I feel like there was so much going on with those characters, and I'm sure that was probably intentional, but I did want more of it. I think they saved it at the end with, getting to see where Preacher Boy ended up, and, you end up finding out that he wasn't able to kill his twin brother, and I thought all those things were great because I think the movie needed it to have that final bow wrapped on it. But man, maybe they'll come out with a part 2. I think it's great the way it is, but I wanted more of the plot.
That's interesting. I would say that a part 2 would not be a good idea for them.
I agree. I don't think it would be great. I think that it was a one and done.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that they had a lot in that if they wanted, they had enough where you were left craving,
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of always want to leave them wanting more. I think those are good points. I would give it maybe a 7.4. And so my reasoning for that is, first of all, the things that I liked about it was the cinematography was phenomenal. Like, that award was well earned. The music, great. That award was well earned. You know, best actor, like, I think he did a great job. Absolutely. The problem is that I can't get into those like vampire, zombie, you know, type of movies. It's very hard for me to get into, you know?
Really?
I do appreciate, but like, so a normal vampire movie for me is always gonna get like a low score, like just a, you know, think of a vampire movie, and you know, I would probably give most vampire movies like a 5 or a 6. You know, this one I give it a higher score to, like, you know, from my own biases, right? I give it a higher score than I would normally give a vampire movie because it was so well done. They did do a great job. I do love the storytelling the storytelling that they did at the very beginning. I love that. I do love a movie that shows you the end at the beginning. I do like that too. I definitely love the very end with Buddy Guy. You know, and Stack, and, you know, the fact that he was still alive and all that. It was a very well done vampire movie, but it's a vampire movie nonetheless. And I don't have a lot of respect for vampire movies. I really don't. But it was good. It was good. Like, all those points that I gave you, that's why I liked it. You know what I mean? You know, vampire movies are just kind of like old hat at this point. You know, it's formulaic. Like, you kind of know, like, you know what you're getting into when there's no like mystery or anything like that. The only mystery in this part is like, how are they going to get out of the situation? You know what I mean? Or are they even going to be able to get out of it? So that's what drew my attention, or kept my attention, was those questions. But it's not like I was questioning anything like, oh, like what's happening? What's the monster under the bed?
Next? I have no idea.
Yeah, like, you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know, so that's where you start to lose me, or I start to lose interest when you kind of have an idea of what's gonna happen. You know.
Yeah.
But
I respect the fact that they took an old hat and did something different with it, you know?
yeah, no, I respect it too, which is why I gave it, you know, that's why it's in a high 7. You know, a regular vampire movie to me is going to be in the low, you know, 5, 6, maybe like, honestly, like, some of that, like, if it's a zombie movie, that might be in the 3s. You know, I don't have a lot of respect for vampire zombie type movies. You know, I don't got a lot of respect for them. But I mean, I think the biggest takeaway that you could take from this film was the cinematography, for sure. You know, like, if you want something that is pleasing to the eye, watch it. I love the going from widescreen to full screen. I love that because it triggers something in your brain that you're like, oh, I need to pay closer attention to something. You know what I mean? When it starts to slowly take up the full screen, you're like, oh, something big is about to happen, you know? And little things like that, I'm like, wow, that's clever, you know? And obviously, like, I love the Delta Slim storyline. I thought that was great. And yeah, that's my rank.
All right. You heard it here. 8.2 and 7.4.
Yes, ma'am. All right, well, I think that wraps it up for the evening. I think at this point, if you have not watched Sinners, it is worth your time. Go watch that movie.
It's definitely worth your time.
Yeah. So if you've already seen the movie, let me know what you think about our episode. Did you think we were way off base? Do you think I'm an idiot for ranking it as low as I did? Do you think Darian's ranking was more on point?
Maybe
you know, any feedback?
Generous. Let me know.
Yeah, maybe Darian's too generous and I'm spot on. If you think my biases are getting in the way of my ranking, maybe I'll try better next time.
What you want us to watch? What's a good show? And we'd be happy to get in there.
And one last note, next week actually, is Star Wars Day. So may the Force be with you. Definitely join us next week because we may or may not be hosting a Star Wars month. And if you're a nerd like me, you're going to want to hear about that.
Doing OG Star Wars for the month of May.
Yes, ma'am. Oh.
All right, guys, join us next month when we do Star Wars OG edition.
Yes.
Thanks for watching Popcorn and Opinions, and we'll see you soon.